Hi. Wow. So in hindsight, that is so Reiki energy healing. I I'll say again, I have not read this book since 2015. And then I began my therapy. I wrote Broken, and then I wrote Zombies from Space and Vampires. We can read that too if there's a demand for it. And I just never went back to Dolor and Shadow. It was like, all right, that's done. Now I need work to do. And then I went to do my healing journey and my shadow work, and I never touched the book again. And since then, oh my God, I'm going, holy shit, that's just the energy pool. Which I kind of, it was funny because when I found the energy pool and when I started to do my spiritual work, I very much thought a lot about Dolor and Shadow in the back of my mind, going, wow, this reminds me of my magic system. This reminds me of my magic system. But now I'm looking at it going, oh my God, it is my magic system. And when I wrote the magic system for my book, first of all, being a fantasy author is one of the first things you get to do when you decide, I'm going to be a fantasy author. When you decide to write any book, you have to think about where and you have to think about who. And then you have to think about what problems do they have? What do they want? What conflict do they have to get what they want? And how do I throw big fiery rocks at them? And that is conflict, plot, story. But with fantasy, you get the added bonus of going, okay, I'm not going to pick a physical, real location. Instead, I'm going to pick anything I want, and I'm going to add dragons and a magic system. And this opens up a whole new level of windows that are just like, oh, no. And this is where fun and chaos gets to take place. So when I developed my magic system, there was like, I remember so many conversations about the magic systems. And because I had other friends who were very much fantasy authors, and we were all coming together and we're like, all right, what's your magic system look like? And I just, for me, it was this energy pool where it had to be logical, it had to be scientific. And I actually pulled from a lot of scientists. That should have been my first clue, that I based my magic system off of physics. And that's how I found out about the three elements, and fire being very much, God, I mean, I just like, wow, fire being a chemical reaction. Fire is not an element at all, according to physics, according to science. And my second husband had a master's degree in organic chemistry, so I was able to sit down and pick the brains of scientists and really pull this apart and be like, does this scientifically make sense to you? And it was very much based off of, hey, this isn't logical. And I wanted it to be logical. I wanted it to make sense. So while I was building this magic system, I'm like, look, this is what I see. I see this energy, and I see this energy being around all of us, and it's infused in everything, not just me, not just you, not just the animals. It is in the earth, it is in objects. Rocks have it. And really, if you imagine a rock having energy, and that energy produces an aura, and that basically becomes part of the energy field that's being dissected over at CERN right now, where they're playing with the energy field and they're going, wow, something's over here. We're calling it antimatter, and it's part of particle physicists, or it's part of particle physics. Like, I can see it. And I'm like, now, what would that look like if I had the ability to take that energy and condense it? And I am a firm believer, let's flip over to psychology, that ADD and ADHD, when you are around a narcissist or an abuser, they suppress you. That's the shrinking. And it's not just ourselves that shrinks. It is our identity, our ego, our energy that literally has to shrink to make room for the narcissist's ego. So it's literally our energy versus the narcissist ego. And the ego is energy. I'm going to say that again. Ego is energy. So when you have the narcissist who's literally like using their energy to bully you, you're taking your own energy and you're shrinking it to make room for their ego. When you shrink, you are condensing and pushing all of your energy into this tight ball inside of you. And that is why ADHD and ADD people shake, move. They're constantly jittering. They can't focus because they have condensed and tightened and compressed all of their energy. And when they do this, it opens their third eye, and they become empaths, which is their sixth sense and their ability to sense and have an intuition for when danger is nearby. And when I was a child under my severe trauma, I felt that energy to the point where when I get going, I dump and I pour and exude energy out of me. It just flows out of me. My temperature increases. And it was Mercury retrograde 2022 when imagination was split and when she was born. I literally was sweating that night. I was so hot that I you could see steam rising off of my body when I was in the shower because I was just that hot. Because I had that much energy that I was just pouring. And when I get going, especially when I'm in a vision, the energy just pours out of me. And there are people who measure the energy flow in other people and other items. So you can actually measure this. In fact, it's a frequency. And if you get into energy healing, uh, I'm looking at my music now. Everything has a hertz to it, a frequency, a vibrational energy or a frequency, and everything produces energy, kinetic energy. This is physics now. Kinetic energy is energy that's produced from moving and motion. And I think the other one is stagnant energy. I can't remember what kind, but that's from a lack of motion. And when these things start to, especially when you start to get vibrations going in frequency, this is where it stems over into music, light, everything. It starts to shake, and basically, it's that friction, that movement that creates energy. And the concept, and I remember thinking this when I was writing it. This is before my spirituality, by the way. That I remember thinking, so she would just use her mind to manipulate and move the energy particles, and that's really what she was doing. Is she was, and I didn't say this in the book because the book is 995 CE, so it would absolutely throw you out of the world. But I remember physically thinking of, imagine being able to move the molecules with your mind and deliberately increase their movement in fiction until you have the energy condensed. Imagine, and this is what we do in Tai Chi, is we condense and we bring and we move the energy and we push it. And this is what I studied when I did Tai Chi. And when I did Tai Chi, it absolutely unlocked. Yoga is another one. The Kama Sutra is another one. And the meditation, Reiki, all of these are, whenever you get into energy healing, it's literally concentrating and directing the movement of energy through your body. And in my magic system, I take that, I call it Seidr, which is the Old Norse word for energy or magic. And in my opinion, energy, magic, and Seidr are the same thing, 100%. It's all the same thing. It's very measurable. And I do believe that we will get to a point where we can control, manipulate, and move the energy so much that we can condense it and turn it into fire, which is what Kalan does later on. Is she's learning how to condense, use, and manipulate the sage. So yeah, through the whole book, she's like throwing fire, using the energy. She's pulling it in, she's pushing it out, and it's very much Reiki healing. In fact, that's what she's doing. Is she's and I didn't know what Reiki healing was. I just learned about Reiki healing about 6 months ago. It was the first time I'm like, what's Reiki healing? And it's funny because I started pulling it up and I went, oh, well, that's what Kalan does. And I had written it way back in 2006, and where I had just like manifested this massive amount of, this is what Colin does. She basically is an uber Reiki healer in Old Norse, but she's to the point where she condenses it and she can throw fire. Now Gudrun is her master, her grandmother. It's and it's also her mentor, her teacher. And she's basically a Reiki master, and she can produce it so intensely that it actually produces lightning. So Gudrun throws lightning, like a la Thor, which is actually how Thor does it because he was also a Reiki master. See where I'm going with this? Isn't this awesome? And in the meantime, Freya, when you look at Freya's background, another goddess of Norse mythology, Freya is actually the mother figure that created Wiccan, that was used to develop and create the Wiccan religion much later on. So when I pulled from all of those sources, it was very much a, oh, I don't know what this is. I had no idea of spirituality at that time. I'm never identified with Wiccan. I do not identify with witchcrafts. That's not my frequency. But when I found Freya and the Old Norse and Sitkona, that's my spirituality. That is where my spirituality is very much grounded. And I idealized it. I realized it in Dolor and Shadow. So that's where this prologue very, very much absolutely draws out the spirituality of Reiki energy healing. And if we were to take it to that next level, and the explanation of the triadic healing and the 3 points of the elements, that is such a huge part of my spirituality and what I integrated in here. It's just extraordinary. And the story of how the gods all came to be, that ties in with imagination's creation story. And if you follow my group, Haven and Manifestation, in my ethereal realm, you'll learn more about imagination. She's not a fictional character. Imagination is was one of my alter. I don't know if I should say past tense or not, is or was, because she's still there, but I'm integrated. And now I'm just make up part of them. But imagination is the manifestation part of me. It's the spiritual part of me, and she is goddess imagination, goddess of. She is goddess imagination and goddess of manifestation. That is her forte, is manifesting, and she uses it through the energy healing. um why am I talking about myself in the third person? I And this is where things with multiple personality get confusing, is because it's like, is it me? I mean, it's all me, and I have memories of being her, but I don't have memories of her anymore, like inside. I don't I think of my alters as a third party, but it's me. It's very, very confusing. This is where, when you stop being a multiple and you switch over to being a non-multiple, it's very it's uncharted territory, because there's so little research done. So this part was written by Joanna. Joanna absolutely was the alter who wrote this, and this is where she was very much tapping into imagination. Now I'm into the psychology part of it, where Joanna wrote this, and Joanna was pulling from imagination's roots and who and what imagination was. Now Kalan is actually my BDSM mistress, my warrior. So this actually reeks of all three of my personalities. Gudrun is more imagination. Um, but and this is great, because I'm in here. I know this Swan is a character that's coming up, and Swan is me. So my alters, well, Joanna actually managed to get all of us in here. Um, all of us are in here. Every one of us is in here. Berrigan is the party animal inside of me. He's the one who loves adventure and parties, and he is a main character in the book. He's like it's Colin is the main character, Rune is the secondary character, and Berrigan is the tertiary character. So those are the three top primary characters. And then Berrigan breaks off, and I was going to do his own book series that I never did, because I ended up doing so much mental work. Honestly, now that I'm healed, I will probably go back to writing. I'm probably going to take a break from Dolor and Shadow, Fire and Lies, the Seidr cycle, and I'm probably going to do Berrigan's books. And I just heard him say very loud and clear, "It's about time," because I have been trying to do those books since 2015. But my mental healing became so demanding that I could not do any more fictional writing, so I had to stop. So yeah, that is book one. And I'm either going to do this every single day, or I'm going to do one of three things, just to give you an idea for the schedule. This is either going to be done Monday through Friday, one chapter a day, but I doubt that I do that, because I know me. I go by my whim. If I feel like doing another chapter, then I will. It might, on the weekends, I might do something. Weekends is where I become unpredictable, because I don't know. I really need to do my own self reflections. I need to tell you what my schedule is, don't I? Yeah, I'm going to do that. I love I struggle with consistency. I'm going to do another video. Sorry, Elizabeth. I'm going to do another video where I explain my schedule to you better, so you understand when I'm on, when I'm off. Because I do a lot of really plugging into this, and I do a lot of work with my podcast and what's going on here. And yeah, I think that's it. Now that I'm actually knowing what I'm going to do with the garden, and I'm actually directing it, I need to keep you on board and get you updated as to what's going on. So let's get everybody on the same page. I'm going to do a schedule next. So thank you so much. I think that covers everything as far as that chapter goes with the spirituality. Like, my mind is still like, it's amazing. Um, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to do this with Broken. I'm going to be reading Broken at some point. But I definitely, and I'm going to ask you guys if you want me to do Fire and Lies. I don't know. I don't know if I should do Fire and Lies yet. I will intuition that out, and I'm going to ask your opinion, what you guys want. But I'm also definitely going to be doing, I'm also going to be doing Broken, definitely Broken, because, and Broken is, oh, I haven't touched it since my healing. So I get to go back as a psychologist and look at the work I've done and go, whoa, wow, I know exactly what that is. And then I get to psychoanalyze myself, which I'm really looking forward to. So thank you so much for joining me. I will be back either later today or tomorrow to do chapter 1 of Dolor and Shadow. Thank you so much for joining me, and may the kindest of words always find you.